Good afternoon, folks. A lot of 11:53 Eastern Standard Time on the PRESIDENCY of Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. Presidential hopeful Councillor TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE will be my guest right here this evening on the race to the 2011 presidential debate in West African States of the Republic of Liberia. Very shortly, he will be joining us. Okay, let's get a program going here this morning. Some of us is there, so welcome to the show. Well, good evening, to good afternoon, good morning, to depending where you are. To welcome to the show. I'm Alfonso Zayensot of the Liberia Public Radio. Councillor TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE is the presidential hopeful of the Republic of Liberia. He will be joining me. But here, a friend of GONGLOE standing by in Delaware. He will be joining me here very shortly to get us take here as well. His support, how he got involved with TIAWAN GONGLOE. He's going to be joining me here. Moses is standing by in Delaware. Let's get the ball rolling here very shortly. Okay, good afternoon, good morning, and welcome to this special edition. I'm Alfonso Zayensot of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. With me here is a friend of GONGLOE. The presidential race is on. That's the executive mansion there. That's where he wants to go. Let's see what happened here. Let me bring in Moses. He's a friend of TIAWAN GONGLOE. He's based right here in Wilmington, in Delaware. I'm going to bring him in here to have a little brief conversation, and then the council are going to come in here, friends of TIAWAN GONGLOE. Okay, everybody wants to hook up with the guy who wants to go into that building. Now you almost look like a presidential affairs minister, as if TIAWAN GONGLOE is already the president. Moses, good morning from my end and welcome. How are you?
Well, thank you, my brother, and thanks for having me.
Okay, I will not ask for introductions on the personal basis, but we have viewers and followers who here passing through every day to know what is going on in their country and the state affairs of the country of our state. Okay, so you support Councillor TIAWAN GONGLOE, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so how you got to this point here? Let's get a little bit brief in backdrop of your involvement with Councillor GONGLOE. I know you making decisions is not an easy one. How you got to this point so quick and fast?
Well, I can tell you, as a young man growing up in Liberia in my freshman, almost sophomore year of high school, I heard about this young man out of the university in 1978 who apparently was arrested and imprisoned because he spoke of peace and justice reform in Liberia when he attended the university in 1978. And ever since then, again, I got involved with the, at the time in 79 and 80, we got involved with the political movement at the high school level. And some of my friends, the Ezekiel Pajibo, what's his name, Mayango Wilson, and all of these guys who were classmates or senior of mine were all arrested after the coup. And that kind of grabbed my interest. Fast forward in 1998, again, I ran into the Councillor Gongloe when he was in exile in Boston, Massachusetts. And at that time, we started a plaque on the Liberia Fairness Act Liberia Fairness Immigration Act. And we went and consulted with him to give us some information on the human rights issues in Liberia so that we could make the case for applying for the for a petition to then Senator Jack Reed and Patrick Kennedy. He kind of helped us with that, and we were successful in introducing 2 bills, both on the House floor and the Senate floor. 21 years later, the bill was passed through the effort of Jack Reed when he attached it to the military bill. So my interaction with Councillor Gongloe goes a long way, and I think that when he came out with the slogan "A better Liberia is possible," I wanted to hear what he had to say about that. And going through his 10 points, Better Liberia agenda, I thought that, you know, everything subscribed in that 10-point document is precisely what Liberia needs post-conflict.
Post-conflict. The route is so huge, the route is so long. Is the consulate you knew then, is that the same consulate we have now? Politicians are involved. They always adopt new system, and the system is involved. By the way, the consulate is back joining us, is already here, but let's just go ahead quickly here. Is the consulate you knew years back, you just outlined here, is that the same consulate we are talking about today?
I think he has involved.
Okay, I just lose connection with Moses here, but okay, go ahead quickly. Your point, and I'll bring in the consulate.
Yes, I think he has evolved given the circumstances in Liberia, and he has never kept his eye from the ball. He's never wavered. I mean, he's advanced himself after the university. He became, you know, doing economics. He went and taught at a university, went excelled to law school, and has played intricate role. What I think he brings to the table is his relationship when it comes to human rights that he's built around the world, and the sense of respect that he has built around the world. I mean, the name TIAWAN Gongloe, Councillor Gongloe, when you talk about human rights commissions and all of that, is synonymous with the consular. And so
let me hold you right there. Hopefully to get your take after the consular here. Right here is 12:01 Eastern Standard Time from the New England Bureau. Our special guest, presidential hopeful. Why are they in the diaspora here? Why are they preaching this message? Well, this is a second appearance. Councillor TIAWAN Gongloe is my special guest. This is Alfonso Zienso, LPR Special. Good morning, USA. Good afternoon. The West African state of the Republic of Liberia. The race, the politics has crossed country right here in the USA. One of the presidential aspirants, Councillor TIAWAN Saye Gongloe, is my special guest, seeking for the higher office of the land. That's the executive mansion. I'm not sure if he's elected, whether he would choose to be on the 8th floor, 4th floor, but we're going to have all of these questions here. Is he prepared? What is the pathway to the presidency of the Republic of Liberia? Let me bring in my special guest, Councillor TIAWAN Saye Gongloe, is here joining me right here this morning. He is currently in the United States. Councillor, good morning to good afternoon. I thank you for accepting our invite.
Well, it's good afternoon on the East Coast.
Yeah,
So
it's
good
afternoon.
afternoon.
It's little after. Yes, yeah.
And
Good afternoon.
I'm happy to be here again. This is my second time on your show.
Yeah. Why you love the microphone, Counselor? You love to be before the microphone. Why? What are you trying to get across?
There is no way to educate the public except through the mass media. And that's one of the reasons why most of my 34 years of practice of law has been dedicated to protecting the press, because it is through the press that governance in any country is influenced by the people. So I have a message for the Liberian people, and that is why I'm using the mass media, especially the microphone, to get to the people. That's the fastest way to get to the people, because majority of our people do not read and write, but they listen to radio.
Yeah, and that is very much important. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to very few people to media friendly. I'm not sure if you get in this building, that path will continue, but for now, let's give it to you. But something very strange happened. Should I remind you?
Remind me, please.
The last time you came, I saw you with something, but this time around, I don't see it visible. Does that mean the dirt in the city, the system is already clean?
No,
Then why you want to be the president?
I always have the broom. The broom is always there. It would be there continuously until I leave the presidency, up to the presidency and after. The broom will always be there.
The broom will always be there.
I'm just not displaying it today, but I have it.
Okay, I just thought for us to have this here. Okay, let's get to the conversation here again. Thank you. It's a little after 12 here in the East Coast here. Okay, let's get to this conversation. When we had a conversation, then you were expiring. You were still exploring the process. But my understanding now, you are the standard bearer of your party, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so I've been seeing you a lot of footages been coming from inside Liberia, in your own county, other places, crossed battleground, Morovia. What is your own impression so far? This is the second time here in the U.S. What are you looking for here, Councillor?
The Liberian people that live here are very influential back home. They send remittances. They are amongst the most educated Liberians anywhere in the world. And they are what they say to the people back home matters a lot. So I came to speak to them, to explain my case to them, to convince them that I'm the best alternative for the future of Liberia. And the last time I came here, some listened to me and informed their people. There were villages I went to in Bong and Nimba, and I was told, oh, my uncle told me that we should tell the village to vote, the whole town to vote for you. My auntie told me, my mom told me, my pa told me. And then they said, because of that, we will support you. So I know that the Liberian diaspora is very, very powerful.
The Liberian diaspora is very, very powerful. The political process in the country is volatile. Are you part of any collaboration alliance with any political party? As we speak, are you talking to any political institution, perhaps to consolidate your political effort?
Well, you know, my party leadership is exploring that. Collaboration alliances are all good because we want a united country. And we will be speaking to people on the different issues. Collaboration must not be based on personalities. It must be based on issues, the issues that confront the country, and we can collaborate on how to resolve those issues. You know, the major problems that confront us. Collaboration, alliances, cooperation based on issues, on looking at the problems, examining the problems, and looking at a way out that we can collectively make our efforts to promote. You know, we must work together on the problem that face Liberian people. We must work together on how to solve the problems. And we don't have to be under the same umbrella. I hope all Liberian politicians right now will agree on lifestyle audit, for example. I hope all Liberian politicians will agree that the president's salary should be on the internet. The benefits, president's asset declaration, and the asset declaration and salary and benefits of all the top government officials should be on the internet to be known to all Liberian people. I hope those issues can be issues that all of us will agree on. That is more important to me than forming one ticket, because no matter if all of us agree, then whoever wins will carry on what we have agreed upon. I think we should start talking on what we consider to be the problems that are facing Liberian people, and what we consider to be the solutions to those problems. That, for me, that's the conversation that we must have.
Let's have the conversation on the problem facing the Liberian people and the conversation. You politician, you are in multiple places, and let's start the ball rolling here. What are some of the problems that you are identify? If Councillor TIAWAN Gongloe is elected the next president of the Republic of Liberia, where he's going to be making executive decision, consequential decision, some will be in favor, some against in this building here. What are some of the problems? Let's condense the conversation here, narrow it down here to scope. What are some of the key things that you identify and you seems to be the potential solutions to those problems?
Alfonso, my desire to be president of Liberia is based on three main areas. One, strengthening the rule of law, combating corruption, and expanding the economy to create jobs and increase our revenue base so that we have money to provide social services such as good medical services, education for all Liberian children, good road networks and their maintenance, rice production. I don't just want to talk about food production, because you can give planting to a Liberian to eat whole day. You say, I ate planting today, but I'm not eating food. You give him cassava, you say, I ate cassava today, but I'm not eating food, like that. So rice production, we need to produce rice, not to be spending all of our foreign exchange on rice. Until we get rice production, the issue of rice production resolved, we will be spending a lot of our foreign exchange on rice, and we'll not have enough foreign exchange to take care of the vital needs of Liberian people. So education, health services, food production, maintenance of our road, and having energy. Why are we not producing enough electricity when just the small Farmington River has been used by Firestone for more than 60 years to provide cheap electricity? It means the example that Firestone showed, if we put hydroelectric power over several of our rivers, we will not only be self-sufficient in electricity production, but will be exporter of electricity to the sub-region, will be a part of the West African power pool, not just as a consumer of electricity from Africa, but also as a producer of electricity and contributing our quota to the provision of electricity for the whole of West Africa. So these are the areas. And now, we can talk about each of them on how we achieve these goals: strengthening the rule of law, combating corruption, and expanding the economy to increase the revenue base to provide the social services that I just talked about.
That you just talk about, you've been in the system, you work in the system before, you've been in government. Is there a new scenario that is just happening right now, Councillor?
What I want to bring into government has not been happening. All right? I want a better Liberia. The Liberia we have today is not a Liberia that we dream of. when you and I were in school, in elementary school, and thinking about the future that we are living today in Liberia is not the future that you and I dreamed of. Unless you say that the future that we are living now is the future that you expected. But that's not the future that I expected. I expected Liberia to be much better than when I was in elementary school, junior high school, or high school. But unfortunately, every succeeding generation has made Liberia worse than before.
Are you part of that? Are you part of that generation because you work in government before?
Well, I play my part, and I can say without any fear of contradiction, and I have many people to testify for me, that wherever I served, I was a transformer, and I served with integrity. I did not steal money, and I left something new everywhere I served. I made contribution. That is my story. And I went into government to prove to other Liberians that government does not make anyone corrupt or inept, or government does not make anyone to automatically abuse office. That those who abuse office, those who are corrupt, those who just make money without working for it, are people who already had those inclinations, and being in government just afforded them the opportunity to show their true colors. So when we were at the university many years ago, and we used to speak against government, the three-party government and a little bit of dual government, the reaction we used to get is, "Yo, move from here, man. When you people get into power or into government offices, you will do the same thing that you are criticizing." I used to pray to God every morning, "God, help me to resist the temptation to cross the lines that I shout at other people for." And thankfully, I maintain my integrity in government. So I'm not one of those who will be blamed for, giving us a terrible story in every succeeding government. I play my part well. That's why I resigned from government, because I was looking at myself as a co-conspirator in state failure in the time of peace.
Now you are inserted this year. We have this conversation, and some of your strong defenders or supporters, like our own senior contributor here at Cissy Goyo, has maintained that position that Councillor TIAWAN GONGLOE did resign. So let me get it strictly from the house's mouth. Were you dismissed or you voluntarily to resign because what was going on in the government, it did not meet your core values?
I resigned. Before I resigned, I issued a 13-page press statement. It's on the internet. If you check, you'll find it. And then the president subsequently called me back into government, because at that time, she had sent all the cabinet ministers home for 2 weeks compulsory leave. I was one of those that she called back. And I said, "No, I'm not coming back into your government, because what I believe you will do is not what you are doing." This country went into civil conflict, and over 300,000 people were killed because of bad governance. And I see the same thing
happening,
being done by you. The same thing is happening.
That's why you told the president?
Yes, in a conversation with her. And I said, "Thank you, but I'm not coming back into the government." "Oh, but I consider you to be a good team player." I said, "Thank you, Madam President, for giving me the opportunity at least to demonstrate what I believe in by occupying those places. Because if I had not occupied the position of Solicitor General and performed, the position of Minister of Labor and performed, it would have been difficult for me to make my case today that I have been there and did not do those things that are condemned, that are criticized before." So I thank God for giving me those opportunities.
Talking about this opportunity, one of the things you mentioned was taking note, corruption. I don't know who is the mother, who is the father, how it was originated, but I want you to put boom on the flesh here this morning, Councillor. What specific measures will you take to reduce this amount of corruption that is saturated, not just in government, public corporations, autonomous agencies of government in Liberia? What specifically will you do to have these things addressed once and for all?
So number one, one of the reasons that people are so blatantly corrupt is that their assets, their salaries and benefits are unknown to the public, and it is the right of the public to know about the government, all officials of government. It is under Article 15C of the Constitution. So when I become president, the first thing is I will put the salary, the benefits, the asset value of the president on the executive mansion website. I will do the same thing for all who serve in the government, in the 3 branches of government. It will be there. Why is that important? Because if the Liberian people know what each official government is worth in terms of salaries and benefits and their total assets, when they start spending above their income, the Liberian people will have the confidence to say, this man or this woman is stealing, because we know what he or she is worth. We know his total asset value. We know his salary. We know his benefit. And in 2 months in government, he's building a 3-story building. He is stealing because the money he's spending is not coming from, it's not legitimate money. All right? So we'll do that. That's one. But that's not enough. So people will have that information. And you will declare your asset before you face the Senate for confirmation. I will declare my asset and have it published before I take my oath of office as president of Liberia. Then, my son, when I become president...
Are you willing to, not to interrupt you, are you waiting until you take the oath of office? Are you willing to do it now before you even get to that point? As knowing who you are, following your history, transparency seems to be to your argument from time to time. And in order to illustrate that, to see it being perfected into reality, is that something you're willing to do now than later?
You know why that I can't do that now? Because I'm still accumulating assets. Okay. All right. That's so okay. Right before I take office as president, because when I take office as president, I will not be doing private things anymore. All right. So the declaration I make now will not be meaningful for what I'm talking about. So when I'm elected president, before I enter office, at least 2 days or 1 day before I take my oath of office, it will be published.
It will be published.
Yes, because by the time I take my oath of office, I become state property, and 24 hours of the day, I will be president of Liberia, and to do anything privately will be a violation of my oath of office.
It will be a violation. We're seeing these violations occurring on a daily basis happening now and then. These are the phantoms messages of the politicians when they are working hard to go into this powerful building, which hosted the official residence of the president. You talk about security, and which of course is a cardinal issue. So, Honor Councillor TIAWAN GONGLOE, former Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia, Chief Prosecutor, what would the security look like? What type of police commission that we will have? Not just only protecting the elite politicians in Monrovia and its surrounding, but I'm talking about my nieces, nephews in Grand Gita, in Nima, in Maryland, in Synod, where police presence is not being effective, and these people, civil liberties is being walked over. What kind of police commission on your watch would we see to have?
So let me conclude a little bit on the anti-corruption measure. Just give me 2 minutes.
Sure.
So after the declaration, every 3 months, there will be what I call quarterly lifestyle audit, where the auditor, as president, I will submit myself to an auditor from GAC, the Government Auditing Commission, to come and audit me about my lifestyle, my expenditure compared to what is on the internet. And I will answer this question. And then the report will be published. But because I will do that, I will require all ministers and commission officials in my government to go through the same thing. And then when they do that, and the auditor presents a report to me for unexplained expenditure of a minister or anyone working in my government, I will immediately dismiss that person and turn that person over to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission for full investigation and prosecution. And when that person is found guilty, the person's the money in the bank, corrupt money, will be seized and returned to government. The buildings, the motor vehicles, and other assets purchased with the corrupt money will be taken and returned to government. And I strongly believe that when 4 to 5 ministers are in jail, their properties are seized, they are in jail for 5 to 10 years, and their family members are suffering, no minister will venture to steal again. And some people who cannot work in government without stealing will be afraid even you offer them ministerial jobs. That is the way I will curb corruption. I call it, I will sweep the dirt from government, which is corruption, and I will not throw in the dumper because when the breeze blows, it will bring it back. But I will burn it. And the burning will be putting them in jail and taking all of the assets and returning it to the people of Liberia, so it will not exist again. That's how I'm going to curb corruption. Now, on the question of security, look, security is based on the maintenance of law and order, which is a very important part of rule of law. You have to have, and then everybody in the country will be under the ambit of the law. Nobody will be above the law. Not even the president of Liberia should be above the law. So police will be, under my administration, the most important government personnel. That's the only way to maintain law and order. And police will have the full freedom to investigate without interference. And because of that, I will issue an executive order that any minister or senior official of my government that interferes with police operation, obstructs it, or influences it in any way will be dismissed immediately from the government.
Without investigation?
The report that will come is that the police, this minister interfered. That's all I need to know. I asked the minister, that's a presidential investigation. Mr. Minister, did you call the police officer? I called the police officer, but you're already in trouble with me.
The conjunction, when that conjunction is applied.
I called the police officer, but I will actually tell you, you arrested my son, and I call him, but it was not intended to influence him. You are gone. All right? Because if the police does wrong, police should be complained. But police must operate without interference. In this country, you live here for a long time. You've not seen police giving ticket to someone, then police gets a call, telephone call from anyone. It's not possible. That person will get in trouble in this country, irrespective of who you are. That is what maintains stability here. No country is perfect in terms of protecting the lives of people, right? Because in this country, look at what happened on July 4 in Chicago. Somebody got people will always do things, but when those things happen, the police must be in a position to investigate. And the president and everybody in government should show concern. You know what I love about this country? One of the things I love about this country that really strengthens the police in its work is that when something happens, and then makes the public to really trust the government, is when something happens, the president gets concerned, everyone gets concerned, everyone gets concerned. Therefore, the police takes its job very seriously. Like when those people were killed on July 4th, President Biden spoke, Vice President Harris spoke, the governor of the state spoke, the city mayor spoke, the police commissioner spoke, and the police commissioner was addressing the public every day on the progress of the investigation. That is the kind of thing I want to do in Liberia. It is not happening.
Honor your watch. Will those things happen? We have heard this narrative before.
Those are the things I want to do. And
it would be unfair, Councillor, 1 second. It would be unfair to indict you. We heard before corruption going to be the public enemy from people who contested these positions, and some of them are privileged. But now we're seeing corruption to be, they are dining with corruption. They are not doing anything with respect to funds being to use, public funds, and no proper accountability. Here we are again having this conversation. After 2023, if you are elected, Well, we'll come to a statement of political correctness where I didn't know then, but this is how inside government been. But that I don't need to tell you. You've been in government before, you know how it works. And the system, it seems to be, the corruption is grounded in that country so much, it has become like a column cancelled in my own definition. So you don't have to agree with me. So I try to figure out how this can be undone once and for all for better Liberia.
Alfonso, the best leadership is by example. Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world. A corrupt person cannot make a country corruption-free. There's no question about that. So my track record has shown that I'm not corrupt. I'm 66 years old. I'm not going to form new behavior. They say practice makes perfect. If I was not corrupt at the age of 32, going 33, when President Sawyer sent me on a 20-day mission in West Africa, and I received 20 days per diem, and I spent 10 days and completed my mission. When I came back, I returned 10 days money to the Minister of Finance, and I was given receipt by the minister, and he deposited the money the next day.
Those receipts still in your possession? Those receipts still in your possession today?
I don't think so. You know, April 6 will move up and down. There are maybe too many things in our country. I have to look upon my documents, but I cannot say.
Have you ever been investigated?
But it is something that is known at the Ministry of Finance, because when I did it, it was a normal thing, but the information just spread all over Ministry of Finance that time. And the person who gave me the receipt is still alive. It's called Francis Capper. He was the Minister of Finance. You know, when just recently, as president of the bar, I was returning money. That information is so, you know, is fresh. And I set the example of returning money. So the president who followed me at the last convention just 2 weeks ago, one lawyer called me, oh, the new president is doing the same thing you did. Oh. He went to the African Bar Convention in Malawi, and he came back and reported to us how much he returned, and brought receipts and everything. And he and the other member of the delegation, the secretary, did the same thing. So when you set one good example, the leaders after you will follow the example. Just like I said in the bar, and I want to be a president who will set out one good example and prevent corruption in the governance of Liberia, at least from the executive mansion, forever.
Forever. After this 1 year, we're going to take a quick break here. But before let me let you have a glass of water, and then we'll be right back. My special guest is Councillor TIAWAN Saye Gongloe. I will be right back.
Don't only have a limited audience, limited to people who have data and have access to the internet. Right now, we're on radio, so we've expanded the pool of listeners, and because we in LPR are in the business of educating our people, whether it's political education or you know, academic education or health education. Now we have access to a vast majority of the Liberian population that we can now interact with. And as far as the ambassador goes, I'm excited to hear what he has to say. I hope, and I know the brother he's very smart. So I hope he brings some substance today, like he always does, and not just give us bare bones. But I know Louis Bryan. I know he's very articulate. He's a very smart man. So I'll be listening to hear what he has to say and what he has to proffer.
Okay, I am Alfonso Zienso. This is LPR-TV special with presidential hopeful Republic of Liberia 2023 presidential race talking point conversation is being extended in the diaspora. Today with me here is Councillor TIAWAN Saye Gongloe, presidential host for 2023 Republic of Liberia. Councillor, thank you for coming here. Let me go to your point here. We want to hold politicians, and I'm happy I have all of these reasons why you want to be president here. One of the things that captured my attention here in one of your points right here is to maintain an independent judiciary and non-interference with the functions of law enforcement. The police must enforce the law of the country without fear or favor. There will be no selective application of the law, both by the police and the court. You, former president of the Bar Association, the court system, from the higher arbiter, the Supreme Court, the lower court, and all of these courts in the various counties, it's a problem. How do you intend to overhaul without using executive authority to interfere within another branch of government, which is the judiciary? How will you navigate through that?
You know, the influence upon the judiciary usually comes from the executive. Usually from the executive. It's not that it doesn't happen from other branches, but largely it's the executive. The executive is very, very influential. You know, the executive has police power. It also controls the press. It makes the executive powerful. And for the members of the executive to be using that power to interfere with law enforcement and interpretation of the law is actually against the Constitution and undermines a better Liberia. So as someone who has been in the judiciary for the last 34 years, as someone who has been a head of prosecution, as someone who has been president of the Bar Association, I will challenge the guard the integrity of the judiciary as well as the police. If there's not proper law enforcement, if there's not proper interpretation of the law, the needed atmosphere for social economic development, for peace, progress, and prosperity of any country is not possible. No country can develop in a situation of lawlessness, both in law enforcement and the interpretation of law. No investor, whether domestic investor or foreign investor, will have confidence in a country if it is reported that police does not do its work properly and the judiciary does not interpret the law properly, or the judiciary is not independent. So I will issue an executive order that any minister in my government, any official of government that interferes with police operation, as I told you earlier, will be immediately dismissed. That is the way. And then also, I will put in an executive order that the people of Liberia have a right to know what the police is doing. So any police officer that confiscates a camera, somebody videotaping police operation will be also dismissed, because the people have a right to monitor those who work for them. Imagine if that 17-year-old girl had not had camera in the case of George Floyd. The people of America, the world would not have known the truth. We will say it is the right of the Liberian people to monitor police in its operation so that the police can remain professional. And so while the police is doing that, it should be protected and not be interfered with by powerful people, ministers and others. Then it will benefit the Liberian people and will benefit the country, because for tourists, investors, and other people will come to our country knowing that their liberty will be protected, their security will be protected by a professional police force. And if anything happens to them, when they go to court, their rights will be protected by the judiciary in the interpretation of the law. So there will be another executive order that anyone who interferes with the independence of the judiciary will also be dismissed. Once there's short fact finding and the truth is established, you are dismissed.
A lot of people are going to be dismissed. You guys, so many names, poor men lawyers, and that I know you intercede for a lot of people who are unable to pay out of their pocket, and you effectively represent them. So I'm wondering here, if elected, that will put you in a different position. You become the father of the land. You'll be making consequential decisions. work out of your own volitions in the past, would that in any way, form, shape, interfere with your executive responsibilities when elected president of the Republic of Liberia?
No. You see, Liberia was established as a country of people from the United States who were slaves, who were free from slavery. And one of the things they put in the Declaration of Independence was that Liberia would be a country that would serve as an asylum from abuse. Liberia should actually be a human rights paradise and a country where all rights are protected under the law. That has not been our story. Our history has been a country where rights of the weak are not respected, where people's rights are trampled upon. So with this human rights awardee, someone who has received all kinds of accolades for promotion of human rights and protection of human rights, there would be no reason for the things I was doing before as a human rights lawyer, because those who abuse rights will be called to book. So there will be no reason for anybody going to police station to release someone, as I would do. The void will be there, but the condition will not be created, so that people don't say, oh, Cllr Gonglue is not here, he's president now. So I will stop it. I will not make under my administration human rights promotion and protection will not be an issue for the civil society, because we'll run a government on the basis of respect for the rule of law and human rights. So there will be no need to intercede for people who would be like, I'm doing two things, I'm president, and then trying to get people out of jail. No.
Okay, let me flip.
I'll make sure that
okay,
those the rights are not abused.
Okay, let me flip the coins around. Now, you are aiming at going in this building, which is great. That's the official residence of the president. With your involvement in this campaign now, will you continue to provide pro bono work? Critic, oppositions, other civil society will say, he's looking for something and he's doing this. That's another way of swaying voters. Will you continue to provide pro services as you've been doing, even though that's what people know you, that's what I know you, that's what everybody knows you are, but now you are in a different share. Will you continue to do that as we speak?
Of course, the answer is yes. I'm not president yet, and nothing legally bars me from doing that. As I sit here, I just got a call from a Liberian living in America the other day that his son was taken to the police station. I called my law office in Monrovia for someone to go there. All right? That shouldn't stop me. And not doing it now is not something that I started this year or last year. This is something that I've been doing from 1988 since I started practicing law. So why will you hold me? Why will you try to put a negative twist to this thing I'm doing for humanity only because I'm running for the presidency? Because they are not done so should not make me stop doing what is good for society.
I'm just trying to go through, I'm trying to go beyond the borderlands. Let's go to one of the points here that is capturing my attention. National healings reconciliation will serve as a cornerstone to promote and maintain national cohesion in Liberia. We shall pursue the principle that all Liberians have the equal shares in the companies called Liberia. Everything Liberia, Liberia. The country is divided. We went through a terrible time. And the language, tone, these things are coming by gradually, but people try not to sense that ahead of time. How will the Gonglue administration's reconciliation process be different from all of these conferences and meetings of reconciliation? What specifically would be your target? What would be your set goal for reconciliation in Liberia?
Reconciliation is an action word. It's not belief. You must act it. You must reconcile people. You must not distinguish people. You must not treat people on the basis of their religion, their tribe, or whatever thing that distinguishes them from other people. Let me tell you, in Grand Judah, I'm called Pulinho. This year, January, I went to Grand Judah. I was gowned. The gown that I wore in Minnesota the other day was a gown given to me by Grand Judah's importer. So that action alone, and then the chief elder said, you have relationship with us, but to choose New Year Day and not spend it in Nimba, in Glazope, in your town, to come and spend it important with us, for us, it makes us, we are so honored by your action. To the extent that the music that was made for me in Mana, Madingo, Pele, and all the tribes of Nimba was played the whole night in Grand Judah. And even a member of the house coming from our town who is a sedition was dancing to the tune of that music the whole night. And then people ask him, but you see this man, you dancing to an opposition man music. He said, what? The honor this man did by leaving his home to come to my town, I must reciprocate by showing appreciation. I am his host. So reconciliation is the action word. The other thing is we must provide opportunities for all Liberians in the executive branch of government. You know, the legislature, your own people elect you to go represent them. So the president has nothing to do with that. Where the president shows unity and cooperation and unity and reconciliation is how he appoints people in the executive branch of government for everybody to be represented there. Alfonso, when in 1972-73, by that time, the 4 new counties, the rural counties, Grand Judah, Nimba, Lofa, and Bon County, were producing so many educated people. So the President Tupper government said, oh, we got to include these people in the governance of the country. So the legislature, based on a bill submitted by President Tupper, came up with a provision of the executive law. You can research it. Section 10.2 of the executive law says, as much as practicable, the president shall appoint at least 1 cabinet minister from each of the counties of Liberia. That law has not been upheld by all of the presidents. They don't do that. For me, that is the way to unite the country. That every county see that there's a minister from the county in the government. It makes them feel a part of the government, not the legislature. The legislature, I put it, let to go there. Because that in the executive, the president can draft the budget, right, and submit it. So if you are from your county and you are putting that budget together in the executive, you will say something for your county. So I will govern in keeping with that particular provision of the Constitution, of the legislature, of the executive law, that says that every county should be represented in the cabinet.
So
when you do that, you will not sit in the cabinet for your people to be negatively impacted anyway, to be insecure, to be denied social services and all of that. That is the way to keep the country united and reconciled.
Let's seal it up right now, Councillor. I'd like to be crystal clear when I'm having a conversation with politicians. You are telling us, if Councillor TIAWAN Gongloe is elected president of the Republic of Liberia, this 16 political subdivisions somehow, even if they are members of LPR, 15, okay, thank you, 15, they will be reflected, their presence will be felt in their government, regardless whether they are member of your party. Is that what I'm saying?
So help me God.
Okay, I am a minister in this oath here. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move here. I'm not a guy who is a favor of big spending. Government, I'm not a guy with wasteful spending. And what I've now heard from most of these political actors or those who seeking for the higher office of the land, I yet to hear from me. Maybe I've been missing the point. Now I have you here today. How they will intend to condense government, decrease the size of government. For example, between 84, 85, President, though there was some conversation, and I know that is still somewhere in the chamber, or maybe to relocate the government, taking the government to the people. And I heard you saying one of your points here, urban Liberia, those places presence will be felt. How do you intend to decrease this sort of wasteful spending in government, starting with your office? How do you intend to handle that?
You know, the thing is, of course, we'll look at the office. When you're considering cutting down government, you also have to look at providing opportunities to more Liberians to serve. Government employees are the biggest employer in the country. The thing is that it is not even the little employees that exhaust much of the budget. It's a few top guys that get so much paid. It is the same few top guys that have all kinds of benefits. It is the same few top guys that make all kinds of unnecessary trips, you know, and spend so much on foreign travels. So we'll cut down waste, but we'll not cripple government. We'll make sure that government performs, and we'll re-examine the different government ministries to see whether they are still relevant. So one of the things I'll do when I become president is to hold a national conference, as President Cllr did. The intention, in my view, I thought it was a good exercise. It's just that we never got a report out of that conference and nothing got implemented. Because many of us who presented at that conference made research overnight, spending long time to make research, and we made presentation about how Liberia's future should be, and nothing happened. But one of the things I intend to do in the first month of my government, to call a national conference of experts for us to deal with some of those issues. How to make government more effective and more serviceable to the people. We'll do that. All right. But for example, government has expanded by having a Liberian Anti-Corruption Commission. Should we cut that commission down? No, for me, it is relevant and very important in our fight against corruption. So we'll look at all of those things. I'm even thinking about bringing back the Ministry of Rural Development, because when the Ministry of Rural Development existed, it was really doing well with farm to market roads, putting hand pumps in the various towns, doing things, you know, in the rural areas that governments were not concerned. But central government, for example, has been concerned more about the highways. So and then the cities have city mayors. So the interior part of the country was just left on its own. And when Tama came with the Action ADP, Action Development and Progress Ministry, that became Rural Development, it was really, really helping the poor people in the rural area, pushing people for self-reliance, helping the people in the rural areas to join government to build roads and all of that. We need to do that. It was a relevant ministry in my view. But what you're saying is something to look at. We need to examine government and see which agencies of government work, which ones do not work. And then
which one is not working now?
No, I said we need to examine government. I'm not going to tell you now which one is not working. It is something that we need.
Is there anyone that is not working with your vast experience in government? Is there anyone that is not working right now?
Well, there are ministries that could be working better. You talk about, you know, agencies of government like the police. It should be working much better than it is working. But it's not because it's not relevant. It is because it is not doing what it is supposed to do. Police complain of lack of.
Is the government also providing the subsidy to equip the police?
So that is the other thing. What I've heard from the police director and other people is that the resources are not coming, that the logistics that the police should have are not coming. But under my administration, we'll make sure that the police is fully equipped. We'll not be taking action against the police if we are derelict, we are not performing our side of giving them what they need to do their work. That would be unfair. So we'll make sure that the police, more than EPS, gets a lot of the money from our budget. Because one man's security, the president's security, should not override the security of the people.
The security of the people. The old man, the clock, is not doing us a favor here, but I will try to do the best we can to keep in within the time scope that was allotted to all. With all of these great ideas print out here, Councillor, what is your path to the presidency?
Well, you know, my path to the presidency is to speak to the hearts of the Liberian people, to be very open, simple, and clear about what I intend to do for them. So I've done that, and it is working. Mind you, there are people who have announced to participate in this election, who participated in the 2017 election. And some people may come who participated even in the 2011 election. But I think whatever strategy I have is working, and the strategy is going to the people. The people who live in America, who are Liberians, I've come to them. I went to Liberia and I've done what no presidential candidate has done in the history of Liberia. I've gone to the rural areas in Bonkane and Nimba. I intend to go to every rural area in Liberia. And someone said, why are you giving your strategy to other people to do it? I said, let them do it. That is the way to try to govern. You must know the problem in order to solve the problems. For example, when I went to Bonkane, going to Cllr and going to Sanoye, going to Botota and these places, I was having, my car was getting stuck, going to Cllr, one big log across the road. All the things I experienced are things that makes me to appreciate the difficulties that people are experiencing in the rural parts of Liberia, which you will never know unless you go and see. Because as president, if they make requests for improvement of those things and you have me experiencing, you say, oh no, that is not a priority, let this thing go somewhere, we're looking at something. We need to build more roads in the city, we need to pave more roads in the city. So there are places that when people are still drinking running water. And of course, that means they will get diarrhea and all of that. I experienced those things. And so what is happening now, when they call 4 names, they call my name. I just enter the race. There is no other way to get people to genuinely vote for you unless you make known your plans to them. So my 10-point agenda has been translated to simple English and has been on the air in Bonkane and part of Lofa. I intend to translate them into the vernacular, into Mano, into Gyo, into Kra, into Pele, into Bassa, so that the people can hear what I intend to do, how I intend to fight corruption, how I intend to make sure that pregnant women will go to hospital free of charge, because Liberia is among the 10 countries in the world where pregnant women die most.
Free of charge? What money are we getting from?
We will cut down the waste in government. This president will not be traveling with large delegation when he has to travel. This president will not travel unnecessarily. Where you have Liberian ambassadors, this president will send a Liberian ambassador to represent the president, unless it's so necessary.
Let's come to a gentleman agreement. Let's come to a gentleman agreement. The time is eating. I know you are obligated here. Let me ask you a question. Maybe it might sound ridiculous. Do you want this current president to be a one-term president?
I want him not to. If you really, really, really love Liberia, you should even resign now, because he's not performing. Look, I was
yeah, I'm trying to get to a point. That is out of the question. I know he's
so what I'm saying is, you talking about one-term president. Ending the term is not even in the interest of Liberian people, because Liberia right now is in the ICU, and we hope you will leave so that we can rescue Liberia, because right now, Liberia is in the ICU. And if anybody votes for him to come back to power, that person will be making a choice for national suicide.
Okay, let me agree with you for discussion purposes. Liberia is in the ICU, and we need surgeons, we need doctors to go and resuscitate and bring back here. Yeah, you guys in the oppositions, you have Councillor TIAWAN Gongloe, you have Joseph Boyka, you have Alexander Benedict Cummings, and maybe others that could potentially come, we do not know here. we don't see the collaboration is not holding, is not working. And you know, I know, there's no way you can get the 51% to put you to the finishing line. So meaning there must be a political consolidation with each of these people here. And you guys cannot go in the conference room to have a conversation. So how can this magical political surgery can be performed? If or we do not want president, we are to be re-elected.
Alfonso, let me make another promise to you. And we'll have the conversation after the election. I will win this election first round. There's no question about it. I know Liberia more than anybody in this race because, you know, critics are people who examine society. I started criticizing governance in my country from the 1970s. I have been scrutinizing governance. I know the Liberian people, and I will win their hearts as I'm doing already. They will vote for me in their own interest amongst all of the candidates. Collaboration is good, but I don't believe in collaboration based on just personalities. No. In the present talk, let me say this. Collaboration on personalities are not work. There was an attempt in 1985 for Cllr and Jackson Doe, for example, who work in the same three-party government to come together. It didn't work, right? Well-educated people, well-experienced people. And they were saying, oh, we don't want a military-style governance to continue. The two of you work with the top of government, which was a better government than most governments. Can you come together? It didn't work. In 1997, veteran politician Dr. Tipote, Bacchus Matthews, new politician Watterson added, new politician George Bulley added. The four of them went to Alliance Convention. I was on the Elections Commission of the All Liberian Conference. Vanishing was our chair. I was on the commission. We came up with rules that everybody agreed with. The voter and they say, yeah, we agree. We applied the rules and we came up with Clayton Watterson as the president of the Alliance Convention. The Alliance failed. The same people who agreed to work together when I say we'll run separately.
Then President Taylor predicted that, and that came to pass.
And Taylor predicted that it came to pass, right? So I'm saying what we missed at the Alliance Convention is what, based on my reflection, I'm thinking about.
Okay, so
if we have gone to the Alliance Convention and said, let us identify what are the problems that are facing Liberia. Is it a personality problem, or there are issues of governance that are systemic, or what? And we agree on that. Alfonso, and then we agree on what are the solutions to these problems. We all agree, and the parties sign that these are the solutions. I am telling you, then they will have looked, among us, who is better suited to implement this solution that we have identified. It will have been easy to find somebody without any wrangling. That conversation, Liberian politicians have not had. And right now, I can tell you it's too late to have that conversation. It requires detailed conversation because we are just 11 months away to the election. To tell you the truth, the president in power, everybody is looking for votes right now. Every minute is important now.
Yeah. This clock is. I have this book. I have this book in my hand, Liberty Hijack, by legendary award-winning journalist Cllr. And it forecasts the 1955 election. That's exactly what we're seeing playing out right now. Let me ask you, there was a conference in my own context. I listened to you or stakeholder here, and I'm wondering how you are processing this here. I listened to Ambassador Louise Brown calling for retire suffering. We saw Save the State. It reminds me of back in the 80s, market calm down. These are all potential statements, comments. Yes, people want to exercise their freedom, but we have come a long way. Let me ask you, do you or are you in any way in support of this retire suffering protest that we are hearing is in the making? What's your party position? What's your own position as a presidential candidate?
When some politicians speak in Liberia, I don't clap. I used to clap for every good speech. And one time, the late Ahaji Kroma, peace be to his, actually my former classmate, spoke in New York at the Liberia Madingo Association. And when they asked me to speak, people were clapping. I said, Ahaji Kroma clap speaking. I did not clap because he and Taylor combined to bring us April 6th. So I can't clap for him. There are Liberian political actors who contribute to the problem, the sufferings of Liberian people.
Who are those?
So for them, talk is cheap. They are well known. They are well known for contributing. Many of them have been chameleons, just switching, from one political side to the other, based on their personal interest of becoming politically relevant all of the time. I don't clap. I don't applaud just anybody. The message must be consistent with the conduct of the messenger. For me, I do not consider Louis Brown as my messenger for anything good in Liberia. Louis Brown was National Security Advisor to Charles Taylor, man. That was the time I was tortured.
This seems to me ANC now.
Let them be redeeming themselves. They laid the foundation for the suffering that is happening today. No. It's not in good faith. Isn't it the same Louis Brown who said to President Sirleaf, Kennedy president, that no one since 1847 has so desecrated the executive mansion equal to President Kennedy, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. It was not even a month after he was appointed to be Minister of Information for that same President Sirleaf. And he was propagating everything. When he was asked by the journalist, he said, when you are far from President Sirleaf, you see a bad woman. When you come close to her, you see a good person. That sounded very opportunistic to me. Truth be told.
Now you see what I'm coming from as an angle when we're asking some of these consequential questions. This seems to me, and we are following this lead here, this seems to me the ANC, the opposition ANC, is raising the unknown alligator because we don't know. That protest, we've been seeing these different matches and all of that. I don't know. We've been suffering. We are still suffering. We don't condone what is going on in Liberia, but we feel it is time for the opposition column, even only the few that George Weah and the CDC-led government is not the way. I think this is time for them to come together and have it. Well, the old man, the clock didn't do well, but that's not going to be the end.
Brian and myself have not seen Liberians struggle the same way, and I cannot be parading behind him. Look, people must call people to book. It's wrong. It's just the same thing that the preachers do when corrupt people are no more in government, then they made them Father of the Year. Or even they are engaged in corruption, they make them Father of the Year. They make them to be lifting in their churches and all of that. We must be clear. If Liberia must be redeemed, we have a better Liberia. Let us look at real agents of change. He is not an agent of change for the better in Liberia. No way. If Mr. Cummings doesn't know that, let him know that he cannot make Louis Brown a face of any change effort. You whipping your public sentiment when your background does not show that you've done anything to avert suffering of Liberian people. He has contributed to the suffering of Liberian people.
I don't want to relegate this conversation here. From what I'm hearing from the councillor, it means the door is being closed, that the councillor or the LPP will ever form some collaboration with Alexander Benedict Cummings, because Louis Brown is one of the faces of the ANC. Let's get it right here. Is there any possible scenario down the hill where you would change?
No, we can deal with so many other issues. All right. We have census, we have different issues on the electoral process that affect other the political parties. The LPP is open to have conversations with every political party on the burning issues of having a free, fair, and transparent election. All right. But for abuse of power that has caused human suffering, Louis Brown is not a hero for that, man. And his inconsistency scares me.
73 seats at stake in the first branch of government, both the lower and the upper. Is LPP feeling any candidates in those areas? Because that's going to strengthen, if you become the president, you have to get a good representation in the first branch of government in order for your agenda to be pushed. Do you have, is LPP feeling candidates in those places? You know?
That is true, though, and we should be concerned about that. But history has shown, Alfonso, check it, there has been no opposition in the legislature. You know, the people go in the legislature and they agree with the ruling party. Right now, what the opposition there on any fundamental issue?
They are in. This is bizarre because they are in majority, and yet they kept saying the presidencies. No. So a lot that they are diminish the power of the first branch of government. Well,
except for Dara Dillon in the Senate and Yeka Koloba in the House, I don't see any serious, representation or opposition in the legislature. So yeah, while we are concerned about having legislators that will be LPP legislators, and we will field candidates in areas where we do not have an LPP candidate. There will be independent candidates that we could support. But I'm just saying that the presidency is so powerful, so we are more concerned about the presidency now. You ask lawmakers, you ask everybody to say the president sets the agenda. Even though there has been time in our country that the legislature was powerful, like in 1930, when the legislature told Charles D.B. King, if you don't resign, we'll impeach you. And he and his vice president resigned. At that time, Alfonso, there were only 10 senators because we only have 5 counties. There was no internet then, no BBC, no VOA. They putting out information, but you know what they had? They were patriotic and nationalistic. They loved their country. And they had the audacity to tell the president, if you don't resign for this fanatical shame you brought to us, we will impeach you. They show power. The president resigned, the vice president resigned, so the Secretary of State, Edwin Bagley, was sworn in as president. That is the only time that the legislature has really shown power.
Yeah,
we got 30 people today in the Senate, and they have not been able to show that kind of power.
All right. We are off the air now. Who are you? Have you decided who's going to be your vice presidential?
I will not tell you. Don't even go there.
But do you have a listing right now?
Of course.
How many persons are we talking about?
No, I'm not going to tell you. You know that off camera.
Do you have a female to balance equality, like the Liberian people say? Female expiring?
I've been through that with one journalist. I'm not going to go there. All I know that
are they in Liberia?
There will be a ticket, Alfonso.
Are they in Liberia?
There will be a ticket.
When do we hope to hear from you? Who's going to be a vice presidential pick? The time the clock is eating. The Liberian people needs to know. We need to get each and every one, including myself, we all must be held accountable. When will we know your vice presidential?
No, that's good. But I'm trying to market this face as a politician first. Some people may not even want to be vice president and say, I think they may win. So I don't want to go on a losing ticket.
Meaning you are currently vetting the individual.
So I am more concentrated on getting this Cllr Gongloe known not as an advocate.
Your paid will also cement your political effort.
Politician, and all I can tell you is I will not pick someone who has contributed to the suffering of the Liberian people. At least I can tell you that.
Yeah, you can tell me that. But I can tell you it'll be more politically profit when Cllr Gongloe and his running mate, he or she, hand in hand, go into Battleground State, Monrovia, Moserado,
when the campaign campaign has not started yet. All I'm doing is to know the face of Cllr Gongloe in the different counties. I'm doing awareness. I am running. Oh, there's the poor man lawyer you have heard about. Yeah, my face here. Then
so approximately at what time we will get to know?
Then I can come to them and say, I came here the other day, I'm running. Yeah, the president I'll be running with.
So around what time? I'm just a little bit curious here to put it on my calendar and at this so time have my guys all set and ready to go.
No, I don't have the permission of my party to give that information right now.
Which county do you intend to declare your vice presidential running mate?
Alfonso, I've been with media for more than 30 years of my life. You're not going to get another answer.
Let's leave it there to Councillor TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE, presidential hopeful Republic of Liberia. Councillor, I want to thank you so much for your time. This afternoon, hope we'll keep this conversation going in that near far future for the good of our country.
You'll be very happy with my vice presidential candidate. Very happy.
So whisper in my ear. Let me whisper in my ear. Let me have a good day.
No, thank you. Have a nice day. Great interview. I enjoyed it.
Councillor TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE. Thank you so much, folks. I am Alfonso Zeyansot of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. Hopefully, our senior contributors, Sister Goya and Moses, is standing by. I'm going to be getting their reactions on the councillor. This is the executive mansion. This is where the political marathon is ongoing in Liberia. Who's going to occupy this space? Who's going to be on the 8th floor, the 4th floor, where the executive decision going to be making? Stay tuned. I will be right back. Liberia Public Radio is a social network that with TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE is known of someone getting into the political truth of the ANC. Delicate, soft-spoken, very much I contain, I will always play a diplomatic role making the case. But the fireburn for the ANC is the guy from the far right, not my words, but delivered by the Liberal Progressive, Samson Boku Brown to Amos George. He's a guy that is not willing, unable to hold back. Quick reaction here. Moses is a friend of TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE. He's based in Delaware, right here in the USA. He looks like a national security advisor or national security minister. Let me when Councillor GONGLOE is elected. I've been knowing Moses for quite a long while. I've been doing a lot of great job here. Okay, Mose, you listen to your guy this evening. Hopefully, Sister Goya, who also supports Councillor GONGLOE, will be joining us here to get their reaction. Look, you listen to the councillor here, and the points are crystal clear to his agenda. But I'm concerned, I am worried the electorates that we have in Liberia kind of a little bit volatile and a tough one to navigate through the process, regardless of your message. But let me get a quick reaction. How do you think your councillor performed?
Well, you see, and I told you earlier, with no hesitation, I got on board to support the councillor because I've known him since I was a young man out of high school, freshman year of high school, and what he's doing, and he told you, plain blank. What he's doing, he's going to the 4th branch of government. And that is, people don't really recognize the 4th branch of government. And that 4th branch of government in any democracy is the people. So he's reaching out to the people first. That's the most powerful branch of government. And his whole idea of going into the villages, and as he articulated, I mean, and there is no one who would hesitate to support him after listening to his presentation today. And I can bet anyone to give me a reason why they won't support such an impeccable person with the kind of record that he has. Okay, so that 4th branch of government is the people, and we ignore them. In the history of Liberia, they've been ignored. Some of the things he talked about replicating best practices. You have to look at things from different perspectives and understand what works and what doesn't work. And when he made references to Torber, to even Charles Taylor, the notorious Charles Taylor, when he made reference to something about the conference, the All Liberian, it was something that was good. When he made reference to the coalition being founded by the by Bacchus Mafia and those folks, the only missing link, he identified the missing link, and that was the interest of Liberia being put first under the personal interest. These are the things that we want to know, we want to see our leaders talk about. When he quoted to you the Constitution on the executive order of 10.2 that talks about an inclusive government.
The conversation is about to get, okay, go ahead. I think go ahead quick.
Yeah, about inclusive government and equal representations of folks of the 15 counties into the government that gives you the foundation for progress in government. And one of the main things, and I'll say this, and I will shut up for a minute, is that when he talks about the internet and the president's him as the president making the access new and saying it's going to be in the internet. In any democratic developing country, that's what we call statutory. It's not the person's salary, but it's the position as servant leaders, that the public should be aware of the salary of every government positions in the country. And that's what you talk about transparency. It's statutory. So you can go in the website, you can go in the executive mansion, you can go, and you're entitled to know if the people are serving you, what the salary that comes with it. Making government a salary statutory is a paramount in our country to address the issue. It's very paramount to addressing the issue of corruption. So those are the things that he's speaking of.
Were you guys friends of Councillor TIAWAN Gongloe in the diaspora? I know you right here with our Ocean State. I hope you're paying 2 taxes for Delaware and that of Rhode Island State, because we got you did a lot in this community. Look, on a serious note, what is the strategy with the Friends of Gongloe? The Friends of Gongloe in the USA seems to be very huge and supportive of his presidency. Would this presence be felt on the ground itself to help him get to the finishing line?
Well, I can tell you the strategy is to really try to build a coalition and a movement. This movement is not going to stop. Even after the election, this movement is going to continue. And we believe in the Cllr so much of his history, of all of the things that he's done, and as he's articulated to you, that it's not something he's going to start when he becomes president. It's something that have been going on since his days of college. And that we want to make sure that this movement continues, and that is to build a better Liberia. It's not about him getting to the presidency. It's about what needs to happen for our Liberian people moving forward from this day on. And some of the goals may be achieved today. We're talking about presidential election, but some of those goals we need to set foundation for that may be achieved in coming generations. So the movement is starting now to build good governance and the rule of law. And we haven't had that in a long, long time. This is a movement. This is a movement. When people commit crime with impunity in that country, and the international community is watching us, and you got to understand, the first thing is that
okay, let me hold you right there. The conversation is about, yeah, go ahead quickly, then I'll bring in.
Okay.
Go ahead, Moses.
Councillor Gongloe is an economist first before a lawyer. So when you talk about building the economic phase of the country, he understands that. When we talk about raising revenue, and you ask him the question, particularly all of these things you're talking about, how you're going to pay for it. Is sweeping corruption? We have revenues.
Okay. Let me get a perspective for another gentleman who is a senior contributor to the Liberia. Sese Goya is a senior contributor analyst of the Liberia Public Radio for support the candidacy of Councillor TIAWAN Saye Gongloe. He's based in Minneapolis. Cllr, teacher as well. Sese, I see you smiling. I guess you are monitoring this program here. You need to share that fries with us here. The last time he was then expired, now he is our candidate. Was there any boom added to the flesh yet in our conversation today?
Hey, my brother Moses, how you doing?
How you doing?
Mr. Sue, it's always nice to see you. I was in the classroom. I'm like, man, my class got to end. Hurry up! I got to get on this because I listen. And of course, the counselor never ceases to amaze me. He did add some flesh to the bones today. I'm sure you were able to push him on talking about the multiplicity of roles in some government agencies that need to either be, morphed or combined or maybe just done away with. And I think one new thing you brought up today was the idea of that executive law that some of us didn't know that got passed. That was a way of trying to ensure some level of equity in the share of the national pie. And I think that's one new stuff that got added to the skeleton today. And as the councilor continues to talk, as he progresses from being the hopeful to a candidate and to the stand-up bearer of the LPP, he keeps bringing out more and more and adding more things so that the Liberian people know exactly who they're going to elect, not an idea of who they're going to elect, but actually know exactly the candidate they're going to elect.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You done, sister?
Yeah. So that's the point I was trying to make. So for the Liberian people out there, I think we're tired, and the Liberian electorate fairly is tired of electing people on what we hope they would do, what we assume they would do. If you remember, Madam Ellen, the situation was she knew a lot of people in foreign lands, and they were hoping that she was going to bring all of those to bear. And then when George Weah came on, he said he played everywhere in the world. He was going to bring all those people on, right? And that has not happened because the Liberian people for a long time have been voting for a hope. We're hoping this is going to happen. And Councilor Gonglou is changing that around to say, here is what I have done in the past, but don't just look at that. This is exactly what I'm going to do. So you vote as an educated voter, knowing fully well what the deliverables are going to be, not hoping that this will happen. And so he's trying to get the Liberian electorate from voting on what they hope should happen versus what they know is going to happen with a candidate that they know with a track record that is there and is unblemished.
What do you guys see as a challenge for your campaign? And I'm saying this to say it about the electorate in Liberia, the voters. The amount have made a way ahead of time without seeing these candidates or these presidential hopeful manifesto to go through and even ask them the question. But here, the Fonso is running, Sissy is running, Moses in the race. I know Sissy, you know what? I'm cool with him. And trust me or not, to the day end, this is the person that we are carrying. How will you guys paint this narrative, this tone here? How will it be changed? What he needs to do to get the voters in his column?
Well, if I may say that, I think he made that case when he spoke with you, talk about the message that he has need to be translated in the vocabulary to every language, every dialect in Liberia, and resonated, and so that it can resonate with the people. The message has to be told. His presence in those villages means a lot to them. And I can tell you that, and that's one of the reasons why the Friends of Gongloe are looking to support this man at all levels with this movement. This movement is going to go from village to village to village. I think if we do that approach, and it's never been done in the history of Liberia before, and he started something that's going to continue with us. So that message needs to resonate with the people, and it only resonates with the people when they put a face they put a name and a face to the name, which is he's going there, he's walking in the mud, he's pushing cars, he's cutting trees. When he has a log that's blocking him from getting to a village, he cuts that and he takes his chainsaw with him. And he's doing these things, and he's walking in there with mud all over his body, and they're saying, man, this guy's doing exactly what we go through every day. He's identifying with that fourth branch of government, and that's the people. And that's a sense of empowerment. And I think that's what this movement is all about, empowering the people so that when they vote people into office, they can hold them accountable. That's the main thing he's talking about. I don't want to come and talk to you. I want you to hold me responsible after I've spoken to you and promise you that I'm going to do this. I don't want you to hear it only on the radio, but I want you to physically see me. And those are things that he's doing that are resonating with the people. And that's what he told you. He's going to win unequivocally. He's going to win in the first round. 50 plus 1, if this movement continue, when this movement continue to progress over the next 11 months, I can tell you that people will come out of the woodwork and will vote for a better Liberia. That's what we're pushing. That's the movement. We want to have a better Liberia.
We want to have a better Liberia. So say you know the rule of this network here as a contributor here. But there was a little bit political split here. I saw the councillor here he's not holding back. I almost make himself out to be, if it caused him to cause his political life,
yeah,
positioned with respect to Louis Brown that he is the wrong guy. They are all responsible of what we are going through here. That's the councillor. So with that, he made his position crystal clear. By the way, in the interest of fairness, I sent a text to not councillor, because we said we want to have this conversation, to Alexander Benedict Cummings of the ANC, because we want to note this, what they call retire sufferings or whatever it is, whether it's in consonance with the ANC and the Alexander Cummings folks. I yet to get a feedback from them, but I also reached out to what his name, Musa Hassan Tabelity.
Oh boy.
This is the content of the message for full disclosure. We are working on the sessions that Louis Brown made in a speech calling for the December 17, 2022 demonstrations in Monrovia, in which Brown is making series of allegations against the WIA government. We would like to know if this position to represent the perspectives of the ANC and that of the CPP. But Musa Ability said, yes, it does. But we are waiting to hear from the political leader of the Alternative National Congress. I think there are two possible scenarios involved here. It must either succeed or it fails. And if it fails, that could be the Waterloo of the ANC. If it goes well, that could be the strength of the ANC. But the councillor is distancing himself from that. Who is on a slippery slope now with this whole retire suffering? I don't get it.
Well, I mean, the councillor spoke for the councillor, but I've been here as a contributor and speaking as Cissy Goya, not on behalf of the councillor. I think, you know, everybody has the right to exercise free speech. The people have the right to peacefully assemble and call on their electors and the government to answer questions. So for that, you know, for me, it doesn't bother me. And I don't think it should bother anybody. As a matter of fact, the CDC is planning a 1 million man march, I think, a day before. And so for me, I really don't see that, to the extent that the rule of law is respected and that private property is not damaged and that other people's movement is not infringed upon. I don't think anybody should have an issue with the ANC, CPP, CDC, or whoever gathering to petition the government. So I really don't see a problem with that.
Including the messenger as well?
Including, you know, whoever is willing to be there, whoever can be there. You know, one of the unfortunate things I keep seeing from people is the inherent unfairness of saying that when Cummings called for, or the CPP called for a protest, a day to peaceably assemble, that his children have to be there. When we fight, we have not seen Champ or Kim Weir at any of CDC rally when they carry the casket around for the 12 years during Madam Salif time. And we haven't seen that even here in the US. When we protest, we don't call the President Joe Biden to bring his children and everybody. Again, if this is organic and it's a grassroots organization, then Does it really matter who brought their children there, or is it the message that people are giving out? But because in our Liberian political dispensation, we're not used to hearing the voices of our people that are critical to ours as elected people, we tend to kind of try to divert and deflect. Why is Cummings putting you in the street when he can't bring his children? Or, why is George Weah putting you in the street when his children are not here? And I think that takes away from the critical civic conversation that should be had, is why are the people gathering and what is their petition to their government? And is the government willing to hear their petition, regardless of who said it or who put them in the street?
Moses, before we wrap up?
Yeah, let me just speak to the specifics of the councilor distancing himself from that. And he told you directly that the messenger needs to be evaluated that brings the message. And I can tell you, anyone can take on a plot and bring a message, but you have to give some kind of value to the message based on the deliverance of the message and the person who delivering the message. And like you said, he came clear cut and said he's distancing himself from that. And that's the kind of person that we know he is. He's no different from that. He says the truth, and he means what he says, and he says what he means. And at no point in time, as a human rights advocate, he's going to sit there knowing the history of that country and the people who perpetuated the suffering on the Liberian people to come out and make mockery of the Liberian people.
Like he was specific in the case of Louis Gaola Brown.
Excuse me?
Like he was specific in the case of Louis Brown, correct?
And he would do it for anybody else. And let me say this. You on the radio, you have seen what's going on. And I can tell you, as an economist, and as a professor at the University of Liberia, and as a professor for the law school, he trained a lot of those people, including Louis Brown. So many of these guys know his ethics. They know what he stands for. And you will see, and I can predict that none of these people will try to endorse Councillor Gonglue.
Okay.
Because they know that he's not going to accept their endorsement based on their track record.
Let me create an open view here, and you have the right to speak to it. If you want to plead the fifth, you are also at liberty here. Look, is ANC raising an unknown alligator? Can we say the NPP has successfully infiltrated the ANC? And Alexander Cummings. Can we say that? Let me make Sissy speak to that. Sissy, can we say that the NPP has successfully infiltrated the ANC? Is ANC running a kind of like running a big political risk here, Moses, to see what is happening with Louis Brown and other folks?
Yeah, so I think what is going on is that the NPP has been in the CDC, the coalition, and I think it is only smart politics, I guess, in Liberia to want to have a tent of everybody. But I think the tables that you design for those people, I think is where a lot of people are having a problem. I don't think any Liberian has an issue with Louis Brown voting for Cummings, because that is his right as a Liberian citizen to cast that one vote. I think the issue people are having is what elevation are you giving to these people? And I think that's what the councillor was speaking about.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what the councillor was speaking about. And so to that point, I think there is something to be said. And I think that's what my brother Moses is talking about. And that's what the councillor said when he talked about the person, the vessel through whom the message is being carried. And I think that would be the reason that would determine whether a lot of people show up to the protest or not. Because if people are looking at Louis Brown as the person who delivered it, he's the face of that protest, then there are some people that will otherwise want to go and protest about the hardship that they're undergoing, but don't want to elevate Louis Brown, so they're not going to vote, right? And so had it been somebody else, then maybe you get a lot more people. And I think that's the point a lot of people are raising. It's not that Louis Brown, as a Liberian citizen, does not have the right to vote for somebody, but you, as a presidential candidate, who are saying that you are going to establish a court to prosecute war and economic crimes. But now take somebody who, and I'm not going to say Louis Brown is guilty, but somebody who has been accused of having been involved or being closer to people who've been involved in that, and elevating to such a status. I think that's what is key problem. But I personally think Louis Brown has the right to associate with a political party when they associate with. But it depends on what table are you placing him at.
What table? And we can now say the table now he's sitting at a head table. When ANC folks have been arguing, their leader, you cannot do the same thing over and over, and seeing the emergence of Louis Brown, Daniel Chi, those people were in the front line, but they are Liberians. They have the right to participate. Moses, let's wrap it up here. How are you guys going tonight? Do you think your counselor scored the point? Let me make you the professor here. You gave the grade point. What grade were you giving in his interview here today?
You know, maybe it's out of prejudice that I'm going to always say he scored very high.
Okay.
And let me say that, you know, having heard and been a part of the political movement a little bit in Liberia from afar, I've evaluated some of the folks, and I have my own assessment, and I've made my own assessment and contribution at times, but I can tell you that this man comes with an impeccable record, and he's very consistent on his message. He's never wavered. He's not going to waver no matter how much the pressure comes on, because he's been through so many pressures before to see if he could waver, and he's not. He's not going to waver. And I think that's what the Liberian people need to understand. And I well, not hit is a strong word. I dislike the idea of people saying Liberian people are stupid, they're going to vote for George Weah again. The people have the right to vote. The message that is resonating with the people is something that people need to evaluate and really look into. What are the messages that are being sent out there? And today you look at other talk shows, and people are in the street, even Cotto. Then when he goes out, if the election was held today, you know, who would you vote for and all that stuff like that. Those people lacks the education to understand. Remember when we were—
I have serious questions, serious concern with those kind of questions here. It's not helping our people. You need to narrow the scope and tell them on what, even if you say, Councillor Gongloe, Ambassador Boyka, Joy Weah, Ellis Coleman, what options are why they are voting? On what basis are they voting? Are they voting on the economy? Are they voting on education? Are they voting on health or infrastructure? You can't just ask people what election were held today. They need to be a little bit specific and detailed so that our people will be able to make some informed decision. That is not happening. So we in the media are also responsible for this sort of ongoing situation in the country, and that's and I just have to say it.
Precisely, to my point, exactly to my point. When you ask those unveiling questions and not put some meat on this character, then you're not doing them justice. And I think that's what this movement is about. That's what the counselor has taken himself to go from village to village, to really interact with the people and to let them know what it means when you talk about proper health care, what it means when they talk about prevention, what it means when they talk about empowering our young people, our future leaders. What are we talking about? What it means when we talked about bringing roads so that you can move your commodity if you're into agriculture. And those are things that he's taken to those villages and talking to the people about. And I'll tell you one thing, we're going to put boots on the ground and ready to go for this campaign. And I think that
you're going to put boots on the ground. Sissy is laughing because he is a political patron. So Sissy, what's your last word before we go?
Boots on the ground. Done by grassroots, the counselor himself has set the bar. Like he tells you, he set the bar very high, and he set the bar by visiting those villages. So anyone who's going to be his surrogate has to put their boot on the ground.
What's your position in the Gongloe administration, knowing your background? I don't want to reveal that for privacy, but
brother, my plaque here is for a better Liberia. So I'm not.
Why you guys can say better Liberia the next day, and then we're going to see dark cars and then tire windshields all dark. Okay, let's leave it there.
let me say this.
Go ahead. What's your final word?
Let me say this one thing, and I'll be quiet. You know, the civil conflict robbed you, my sister, from our contribution to our country. It robbed us. That civil conflict. We should be in Liberia contributing to the well-being of our country, either voluntarily or somehow, somewhere. And we cannot do that, so we can do it from afar. But I think that what the counselor brings to the table is that at least, I won't say guarantee, is the promise that we're going to be at the table and we can go home, either to volunteer or do something so that we can begin to change the trajectory of what that country is going. It's going downward trajectory. We need to stop putting it up. We need to start setting it flat so that it can start building to go up. And I think that's why some of us are participating in this. And thank you again, Council. I always thank you. You know my background. So when I talk council, we talk about what we can
talk about. Okay, that erection of the building, I will let Sissy to put the roof over the building here before we go. Sissy.
Yeah, so I think Moses spoke on the issue of the downward trajectory. So our slope has to change. We got to change that and start. I'm in a math class right now, so I had to throw that in. But to your question about I think you've asked me that before, and I've been very unequivocal about why I support Councilor Gonger. I am way too young to volunteer. I think taking a job in Liberia, an appointed government position would be a volunteering for me, because I don't think by law will make me close to what at least I get paid here, my bigger salary as a teacher. So I'm not willing to do that. I will hope to be a volunteer that continue to go back to Liberia and help people to try to make sure that all of these things that the council talk about, A, is held accountable to it, and B, that we are making sure they're being implemented. And so for me, that is my point, is that a better Liberia is possible, because we get somebody in the executive mansion who understands that, who lives there, and is willing to open up the country for a lot of people to come and help. So that competition is not looked at as a negative thing. Competition is looked at from the perspective of the country benefits. It's not like what people are doing right now is, Buka right now is the largest fish, like I keep talking about in Fiama, because the Akaris graves and everybody else right now, they're in that little cesspool, and that's a swamp. And so when you open it up for the Atlantic Ocean to come in, now all of a sudden Buka is not a predator, Buka is a prey. And because now you got bigger fish coming out. And so to the point about the counselor and the work that needs to be done, we understand Liberian politics. We understand that people are going to be needing, to change the narrative. This cynicism about what people are going to vote for a 6 cup of rice in lieu of a 6 year of suffering. I think we're going to change that. Our people are no longer going to vote for 1 day food and to suffer for 6 years. Our people are no longer going to grant a power of attorney to leadership that's going to ignore them for 5.5 years, and they come to in the last 6 months to election and say, my people, I'm here, look at me. I think our people are way smarter than that, and it is upon us. When I say us, I mean it's those of us who believe in the candidacy of TIAWAN Gonger to start to change the narrative for our people and start to make sure we continue to allow to enforce what TIAWAN is doing, going from village to village, talking to those people who otherwise have been ignored by our political system, that have been reduced to the sidelines, and to eating from the crumbs that fall from our table, and asking them what is important to them, so that when the councillor is formulating his national plan, that it takes into account what he heard from those people, not from a bunch of PhDs or talking heads like us in the US that are removed from what's happening, but he's going to those villages and listening, and he's forming his 10-point plan or whatever it evolves into later on, based on the prevailing circumstances, that it reflects on what the people are telling him on the ground, and not something that was written by Harvard's grad or like talking heads like us. And I think that changes dramatically the kind of election that we're hoping to have, and the kind of candidate that's out there is saying that I need to listen to you because I'm running for you. I might have an idea on what I think is important, but I want you to tell me how I should run for this country, because you are going to give me the power of attorney, and for 6 years I'm going to make decisions for you, your children, your grandchildren, and that's going to affect your lives for a very long time. So before you sign that paper and make me president, I want you to be able to tell me what is important to you. And I think that's a bigger point.
Well, gentlemen, the clock, we want to thank our many followers, their reactions, their tweets. So thank you so much. Your comments still value to this process. Moses, thank you so much. Friends of TIAWAN GONGLOE and our own Sister Goya is a senior contributor to the Liberia Popular Radio, but also support the candidacy of Councillor TIAWAN SAYE GONGLOE. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being part of today's conversation. Okay, what folks? There we have it. I'm Alfonso Zienso of the Liberia Public Radio and LPR-TV. That's the building there, the executive mansion. This is where the building has been heavily contested, sons, daughter, and those who are going to be seeking the higher office of the land. We will reach out to our microphone is open as well to Ambassador Joseph Boycott, even the president, the sitting president of the Republic of Liberia. If they allow us to, we will have conversations as well, making it more balanced, fair, objectives, and proportionate, giving everybody decide to tell their narrative. And that's what we stand for, and that's what we do here at Liberia Public Radio. I want to thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Is try to do what is right, making information, conversation proportional, giving everybody the fair share. And what is interesting, we do now sanction voices, including the contributors and analysts, and even those of our followers. They always express their engagement with one another. Disagreement is so severe, is so in the context of making sure that civility is maintained at all times. Not to mention the panelists you have, all of them, despite of their political pick, but the respect is there for one another. Sissy Goyot, our senior contributors based in Minnesota, he does support the candidacy of TIAWAN GONGLOE. He always makes sure to get in the throats of the ANC, and he's very clever and strategic in doing that. Dolaket on the other end with Amos Joy. Dolaket, he's a soft guy, soft-spoken guy. I always try to find a common ground, but he's rightfully being labeled by the liberal progressive from the far right. Amos George, he is the firebrand behind this. Well, folks, that's how we're going to draw the curtain here this afternoon. It's 1:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here in the East Coast at the New England Bureau Decks of the Liberia Public Radio. I am your host, your angot, Alfonso Zienso. We sincerely apologize. Yesterday, the Liberian ward today was in hell due to technical issue with back home. As you know, connectivity becomes a challenge. Hopefully, this Sunday will return. She will play host to Mozzarella Senator Asai Jose. We are still working out the details if he will be appearing, but we will let you know subsequently our next guest in this summit, the Liberian ward today. Until then, we want to leave you at this note. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing notes, sharing your tweets, comments with us here at Liberia Public Radio. It's about Liberia, and that's what we do. We strongly believe all of us must have a civil conversation for the good of the country. And it will be unfair if we render convictions without giving people the opportunity to have their narrative. And this is why we do it differently on this network. Well, before we go, international news just coming in according to France 24. South African leader Cyril Ramaphosa's braces to hear of impeachment. Threat, we are, according to report, top party leaders meeting and trying to discuss the fate of Cyril Ramaphosa on the eve of a parliamentary elections also in the making. And news coming from the West Africa, from Nigeria. The Economic Community of West African States has decided to act to take care of its own security. According to reports reported by France 24, The president of ECOWAS, Aliou Toure, told journalists in Abuja that the West African states are now considering, or they have agreed, to take care of their own security by having a peace mission and establish, you remember, ECOMOG during the Liberian civil crisis. ECOWAS is trying, or has successfully regrouped that to be a standing peacekeeping group within the west coast of Africa. Until then, have a pleasant day. By God's willing, same time, same network, I will be here. Thank you so much for your time. And please, if this is the first time, just follow us on the Facebook, Liberia Public Radio. You can also visit www.liberiapublicradio.com. It's our official website. You can get us on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube channel as well. The network that discusses the issues, not personality, on the critical level, but fair, balanced, and respectful to our guests, but we do not protect them from answering the hardcore questions. I am Asian Soul. Have a pleasant day. Bye-bye.